Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the return of the Stand Up Speakeasy. I'm Srethne, your host, and every episode I bring on a comic from all over the country as usual, and I'm jumping right back into it. And for this next guest, I got to interview him when he was here in St. Augustine, like 45 minutes away, and he was here for a fest in Gainesville. So I'm lucky to have him back, and we're gonna update his interview 4 years later and see if any of those answers change. So welcome to the stage. Will Hancock. Hey, Will, how are you?
Good, sir. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for joining me today. It's great to reunite with you after all
Yeah,
these years.
yeah, I'm excited.
Fantastic. So, I noticed on your bio or your intro, like you're a manager of Native Daughters. And how did you link up with the Native Daughters?
Well, Native Daughters have been pretty prominent in the Denver music scene for a long time, and I just became friends with Justin Hackle, the lead guitarist, and I've known Gene Martinez, who's the bassist. We've worked together at multiple festivals around the country, doing artist transportation at Coachella, Lollapalooza, Riot Fest. So I've been a fan of their music for so long, and asked if they'd like to have somebody kind of take over the business end and just help them put out. We just put out an EP that'll be out on July 17th. So some pretty sweet vinyl. We did a one-sided EP and then an etching on the other side that I think looks outstanding. So just kind of right place, right time, I guess, is the best way to put it.
That's awesome. And I remember Native Daughters played in Pueblo one time at Phil's Radiator
Okay.
when it was still open, and I was filming my short film at the same time, and it was like a superhero short film, and their show was happening at the same time. There was like an intermission like between bands, and like you could hear someone say Native Daughters in that short film, so I'll have to send it to you. It's
That'd be
pretty dope.
cool. They'd love to see that.
Heck yeah.
Awesome.
And speaking of Coachella, I got to go there one time, and my manager at my day job when I was living out in LA hooked me up with like a $500 ticket, and I know those tickets were really expensive, but
Yeah.
it was the same year as they had that Tupac hologram, so I got to go see that one and with like
Oh, that's awesome.
Radiohead and Black Keys and all that stuff. It's fantastic.
Yeah, yeah, it's something to see. You can't really explain Coachella. It's just something you have to put your own eyes on because it is just massive in every sense. So it's like a
Indeed,
small town that pops up in the middle of Indio, California. So
most definitely. And I remember I bought a 10-person tent, and I just went by myself, and I felt like a king in there. It's
living in
fantastic.
luxury.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
And I love like when I was like, setting up my tent, like they had those little streets that where you put your set up your tent in your car and everything. So that
yeah,
way you don't get lost. It was grand.
yeah, yeah. They've got it pretty well down. They've got it nailed down at this point. It's a well-oiled machine.
Most definitely. Indeed. And then you're also a tour manager for Bigwig. And how did you link up with Bigwig?
I've known Tom Pettis since I was a kid. I used to be in a band called Minus One up in Pennsylvania, and we used to open up for him. Actually went to high school with Matt Gray, who was the original drummer for Bigwig. He was on some of the earlier releases, and I've just known Tom for so long. And we had linked up actually at Fest, and just kind of got talking. And I just mentioned that I'd be down to tour manage. So before COVID hit, I did a small run with them from Nashville down into Florida, and we were actually in the northern part. Melbourne was the last show, and then we headed back up to Tennessee. And I'm involved in a lot of the business decisions and things like that, just on a more of a consulting side. So just another same situation, just the right place at the right time, and all about who you know. So
Absolutely. It's a joy like working with bands and stuff. And like when I was, growing up, like when I moved back from California to Colorado, I managed the Widowhood Effect, and they're like a three-piece band. They
Mhm.
sound like a bigger band, like Rush, they
Oh,
compare
cool.
themselves to Rush. And it was so dope. And and even though like it was only for a couple months, I learned how to book and all that stuff and publicity and marketing. And there's so many things on the business side of, both in entertainment industries, whether it's comedy or music and stuff, and you just got to
Yeah.
learn it while you go along. And for most cases,
And that's where, like, when I first met you, I was just kind of getting involved in producing and putting on stuff. And I realized quite quickly that I was much better on the business side than I was standing in front of the mic. I think that takes a level of time grind through material and fine tune your craft. And I felt like I was doing a disservice to people like Adam, Kate, and Holland, who I was on that show with, where I just didn't have the time, because I have a full-time career where I design and build large-scale recycling facilities all over the country. So I fly like 180,000 miles a year.
Wow.
I'm constantly on the road. So trying to find open mics all over the country was just, it was exhausting. and it never really gives you time to hammer on that joke and get it to where it should be. So I just felt like I was kind of disrespecting my friends' craft, if you will. So now I help out with Adam's monthly show, The Grolics, in Denver at the Bug Theater. I'm the transportation coordinator for High Plains Comedy Festival, so I'm heavily involved in that. And then I'm working on putting on a monthly show at a venue in Denver that I hope to announce soon. So
Awesome. And it was great to see Adam in St. Augustine too, and I got to interview him. And I remembered this guy was like, he was on something. I don't know what it was, but he kept on interrupting us. I'm like, dude, give us some time. I got to interview Adam, and the Grolics and Ben and like just hearing their podcast and stuff. It was fantastic. And speaking of, like, he's also part of the High Plains crew. And how did you link up with the High Plains Comedy Festival?
So I started working as a volunteer, actually, 6 years ago. I started working as a volunteer, and I'd obviously worked in big events, and I was familiar with big events, and I had been working at all these, larger music festivals, and I saw that there was something missing in the transportation side of the festival that I thought I could bring a little bit more knowledge to. So I went to Karen and Adam and asked if I could be involved, and then 2019 was my first official year as transportation coordinator. And I think, I'll be involved from here on out. I met Adam originally at a Geeks Who Drink event because I knew John Dicker, who was the owner of Geeks Who Drink, and I would help out when he would do Geek Bowl. And Adam was one of the performers on Geek Bowl, and I had been a huge fan of his work just around town. So getting to meet Adam and then just becoming friends with them, it's kind of easy to transition into that business side when they trust you and understand that you're not trying to get ahead. You're literally a fan of their work, and you're really just trying to help. And you don't see a lot of that in the industry. So it's always a breath of fresh air to comedians or musicians when it's somebody that's like, hey man, I just enjoy what you do and I enjoy your art. I just want to help. So.
Absolutely. We're in the same boat. Like whenever I find a musician that's starting off, I'm like, look, I don't want any money or nothing like that. I just want to help you out with either press, I'm a journalist, and photos if you need it, videography, whatever you need, I'll help you. And I found this solo acoustic act out of DeLand, Florida. His name is Freddie Penn, and I helped set him a show at my homeroom. And so he's really excited to perform this Saturday. And so I can't wait. And he's getting paid for it. So it's fantastic.
That's awesome. Good for you. Yeah, I just think if we don't support the arts, there's going to come a day where it's going to be harder. I mean, it already is. It's harder and harder for kids to tour the country in passenger vans. I mean, if you look at the prices of gas, I don't think we could have toured back in the day for $4 a gallon. It just would have been nearly impossible. So, and I'm, my goal, my dream is to have a venue that is, geared towards those the younger kids and helps people who are out touring, whether they be comedians or musicians, and have a place to stay, have a place to do laundry, get a warm meal, that kind of thing, where it's not eating away at whatever profits they may make at their show, and be more inclusive on that side of making it about the artists, where in America, there's so many venues that are around, drinking and we make our money off of liquor sales, where, the artists don't ever get to see any of that money out of the liquor. If they're lucky, they get half of the door, or, whatever it may be. So just trying to drive more of that support for musicians and artists of all walks of life, across the country. So.
Indeed, most definitely, man. It's so cool to talk about music too with you, because last time it was just all comedy, and man, it's so neat to and I can totally pick your brain with all that business stuff, because I'm trying to learn that stuff too, and it's
oh yeah, anytime, man. My email's always just shoot me an email. If I'm in the air, I'm usually on the Wi-Fi. So
Awesome, fantastic. And you're also the manager for Such Gold. And how did you get together with Such Gold?
So Such Gold, I was living in Portland, Oregon at the time. Such Gold came through and they played with Wilhelm Scream and the Flatliners. And I forget the venue. It's been many, many years ago. I think 2013 at this point. And they needed a place to crash, and they crashed with me. And Nate Derby, the lead guitarist, and I kind of hit it off. And we had a lot of mutual friends in the industry. And I would see him out on the road from time to time. And then I would put them up for Fest, and I would give them hotel rooms across the country, depending on where they were. If they were stuck somewhere and needed a place to crash, I would use my hotel points to put them up. And the last Fest, we kind of all sat down, and I was like, hey, I'd love to be more involved on the business side, help you kind of, because they've had a lot of changes with record labels, and they finally settled at Mutant League now. But before then, it was, they'd get on a label, that label would get bought out. They'd get on another label, that label would get bought out. So their back catalog, it's kind of convoluted, and I knew that I could kind of come in and help them try to reclaim some of the lost, royalties that they're owed, and then also just be there as a an ear when business stuff does come up and say, hey, watch yourself here. Look at, maybe look at the fine print. Let's see what they have to do. And they're in the process of recording right now. So they'll have a new LP out, hopefully by, if not end of the year, beginning of next year, and then go on the full tour rampage. So Nate's actually moved down to Florida. He's outside of Tampa now. So the band's kind of split between New York and Florida. But Such Gold is they're such a great act that I don't ever see them just calling it quits. I see them figuring it out. So.
Indeed. I'm definitely going to check out all those bands. And I'm familiar with Native Daughters, of course, from the time that they were in Pueblo, but I'll definitely check out the others. And
yeah,
I love discovering new music. Well, it's going to be new music to me, so it's going to be great. Indeed. So, Will, these were the questions I wanted to ask you. I asked you in St. Augustine.
Yeah.
And so we're gonna see if we can update those answers.
I would love to.
Awesome, fantastic. So, what inspired you to perform stand-up comedy?
It was something that I'd wanted to do my entire life. I had been such a fan of stand-up comedy from a little kid. I found, obviously bad news now, but Bill Cosby at a young age, and I became very fond of his work, and just kind of coming up and listening to, guys like Robin Williams, and being such a fan of SNL, being that close to New York City, it always felt like it was something that I would be able to one day see with my own eyes, and I still to this day have not been able to make it to a SNL. But I started, when I moved to Denver, I was working with Ian Douglas Terry, and we were kind of putting on ratio comedy, and I was helping out on the business side of that. And that was essentially my stepping stone of getting into comedy. And I owe it to Ian Douglas Terry. But it was just something I always wanted to do, and I thought I could do. I always felt like I was funny. I could make people laugh. But there's a big difference of being in a bar and making someone laugh, and then writing, material and getting it up on stage and performing it are two completely different worlds. And I found that out quite quickly, that I was much better on the business side than I was trying to make people laugh, because it when you write material, it's very different, where it sounds funny to you and you're cracking yourself up, and then you get on stage and you might get one laugh and you're just like devastated. And I'm a very sensitive person. So, coming from the music background, you play your songs. If no one likes you, you pack your shit and leave. No one, it's never you're playing so loud, you can't hear them going, this sucks. So where if it's just you on stage with a mic, that it's much easier to hear that. So I knew quite quickly that the rejection of stand-up comedy was not for me.
Indeed. And shout out to Ian, because I got to interview him too, and his interviews are still on my website. So that's good stuff. And what was it feeling like for you when you first performed stand-up?
Oh, I think this answer still stays true to the one from 4 years ago. It was absolutely terrifying, and I was sweating in places I didn't know that you could sweat. I was I had trouble breathing. I don't even think I wrote like 3 pages of material for 5 minutes, and I probably skipped over a third of it. And I think I was on stage a total of like 3 minutes of my 5 minute set, and I just rushed through it. I was so nervous, so scared, and it was, I probably knew 60% of the people in the room, but it was terrifying, absolutely terrifying.
It's and it's that's why it's like, like I'm so used to performing in front of strangers, because like I tried performing in front of my parents once, and they're like, "We just don't get it, but we'll support you."
Yeah,
It's
right.
like,
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I wrote a joke. I wrote a joke, and it wasn't true, but it was just about like stealing one of my dad's condoms as a kid. And my dad's like, "Well, this isn't true." And I was like, "Yeah, Dad, it's funny though. Like, I stole one of your condoms." He's like, "I don't even think I had condoms." So it's like, "Oh, you just forget it, Dad."
indeed. Most definitely. And what are your favorite comedy specials and comedy record albums?
Oh man, have you seen Inside yet?
Not yeah.
Bo
Oh, that
Burnham.
was with Bill Burnham, right?
Yeah,
Bill Burnham.
yeah.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. I haven't caught Rory Scovel's yet, but that one just came out. I think anything Maria Bamford does is just genius on such a level. That last one where she just moved from like a park bench and then she was in a bigger room, and then it ends obviously with her in a theater, but it was so true to how comedy actually works, where you're working material in these smaller rooms and in front of less people, and then when you finally get to the good stuff, you're in, hopefully in front of a theater and in front of a lot of people. But specials are tough. I think, especially with COVID, there hasn't been much put out special wise. Ben Roy just put out a new album that just came out, Take the Sandwich, which I've been working closely with Ben, obviously with Grolix and High Plains. And I try to be at most of his stuff in town just to be there for support, if you can help out with, whatever the technical difficulties. And I've heard him work through this material over the course of the last year, and seeing the final product is just so good. So highly recommend Ben Roy's new album, Take the Sandwich.
I'm gonna definitely listen to that because I love Ben Roy, and like hopefully like I can afford to bring the Grolix down to Sureth Fest, because we're going on 8 years this year.
Good for you.
Yeah, so like it's mostly like all Pueblo bands and musicians that fill the music part, but I finally got to bring like Mo Alexander from
Oh,
Memphis in
nice.
there,
That's
so
awesome.
it's all free for 4 nights. So if you can make it down to Pueblo and
Yeah.
check out original music and comedy, it'll be
When is it?
fantastic. July 16th to the 19th
Okay.
at
Should
the
be,
Grindhouse
I think I'm
Cafe.
around. I'll try and make it down.
Heck yeah! And so and I highly recommend Roy Scovel's new special on YouTube.
Is it?
Holy
Is it so
moly!
good? Yeah,
It's
I love
yeah.
anything he does. So I can't wait to see it. I had it in my queue for tonight. So
Indeed, and it takes place at the Relapse Theater, and that's where when I was going on my very first and last tour because of COVID, I one of my stops was at the Relapse Theater, and that room is just amazing, and I hope they reopen it. It's just
that's
amazing.
awesome.
Yeah,
Hopefully with his special that drives some excitement to get that place open. So
most definitely, indeed. And some of those folks have been on TV and film, and I want to know what your favorite sitcom, sketch shows, and comedy films are.
I am a diehard Letterkenny fan. Have you seen Letterkenny?
I have not. I know it's on Netflix. Am I right?
It's on Hulu now. It was a
Oh,
Canadian show, so it wasn't available in the U.S. market for a long time. It's on season 9 right now, but they're short seasons, 6 episodes. Um, it's just, I grew up in a small town. It's about a small town in Canada. Rednecks, hockey players, skids who are the drug users, and it is one TV show that I just doesn't I giggle like a little kid. Like it makes me laugh so hard. Comedy movies. I don't know if I've seen anything recently that's been. I can't think of anything. No movies that I've seen recently that have knocked it out of the park for me humor wise. There's always, I think that Lucky Logan was the last one I watched that I just was like, this is genius. And Adam Driver in a humorous role, I think just cracks me up because he looks too serious to be taken lightly. But then when he's on, he's on. So
indeed, and sketch shows.
Oh, it's always going to be SNL for me, but I know a lot of people have kind of veered away from that. And there's so many other good ones out there. I mean, Key and Peele, I wish that show was still going. I wish Chappelle's show was still going. Broad City, I love what they do. Some of it doesn't resonate with me, but I don't think I'm the target demographic as a white straight guy. So, but it's still hilarious. I hope the Kids in the Hall that is coming back is good. I don't know. I hope that they still have that same flame that they had, 30 years ago when they got together. So, yeah, I would say, I'm looking forward to Kids in the Hall for the sketch comedy side. So,
Indeed, most definitely. And let's see here. If you can go on tour with any comic, locally and internationally known, which comics would you like to go on tour with?
man, God, do they have to be alive?
Nope, you can bring them from the dead. We'll get the Ouija board out.
Yeah, I mean, I think Dead would be more exciting right now, just where we're at. I think if I could spend a week with Robin Williams, Sam Kinison, any of these guys that are no longer here, it would be a blast. So, but Robin Williams for sure. I think just to see him in his natural element because he was always so good about making everyone around him happy, even though he was, very sad inside. And just to see that work and be like, I don't know, try to make a difference in his head. So.
Indeed. That's how most comics are. We like to make people laugh on the outside, but we're pretty sad pandas on the inside.
We are broken people for sure.
Absolutely. And if you can get roasted by 5 comedians, past and present, which comedians would you like to get roasted by?
Oh, Jesus. Man. Chappelle, Ben Roy, Kyle Kinane, Shane Torres, and probably Mo Vita, because Mo Vita just knows exactly where to go right after your sensitive parts and knows exactly where you'll cry offset.
Indeed. And speaking of Mo Vita, she's performing at the fest this year too.
Awesome. Good. Yeah, yes. She's amazing.
Absolutely. I agree. So we got a double doses of Mo on the same night. Yeah. Mo Mondays. That's what it is.
They're used to
it. Absolutely. And let's see here. Where do you see back then it was like 4 years ago. So where do you see your comedy career in the next 5 years if you come back?
I am very, very determined to have a venue. I'm very determined to have a multifaceted venue that is both comedy and music and is an inclusive space for everyone and anyone. And my dream is to have that groundbreaking indie kind of spot that, they make documentaries about, something like a CBGB or a 9, whatever the room is in San Francisco, Gilmore Street. And, just something like that. That everyone, even when they're not performing, wants to go there and see what's going to happen, just because it could be groundbreaking and unbelievable at the same time. So
most definitely, if you can, and I'm hoping that you do. There's 2 venues in Pueblo that are like that, and they need to be reopened because we miss them. And it's Phil's Radiator, where I met Native Daughters, and the Rainbow Bar. It has the rainbow fish on it. And there's a loft on top too. So
no way.
Yep. Hopefully you can bring that all back.
I'm not opposed to it. It's just a matter of, making it work on the financial end. And, with Denver, I mean, there's been a mass exodus to Trinidad. So, I don't know if you've paid attention to what's going on in Trinidad, just south of you, but, there's Trinidad Lounge is, Curtis and Suzanne from the High Dive up here in Denver. They went down there and bought the old theater, and I see that's probably going to be the way to go, just because of economics in this city being so expensive and property just being through the roof because of legal marijuana and because it's Colorado. So.
Indeed. And our buddy Nathan Lund is down there in Trinidad now.
Oh yeah, he's tearing it up down there.
Absolutely. I had him on the fest last year, and my festival was totally DIY, punk rock. And so we took over my friend's basement. And there was 9 people in the audience. My buddies brought their family from Arkansas to come over to see Nathan perform, and them too. And it was the coolest thing, because it was just bringing Nathan, one of the biggest headliners in
Yeah.
Colorado down. It was just such an amazing experience. So.
Yeah. What him and Sam Talent do together is pure magic. So if you can get those two in the same room, it's unbelievable. So
Hopefully, in due time with their podcast and stuff, it'd be pretty
yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
Yeah, indeed. And let's see here. Which other forms of comedy would you venture off into, like improv, sketch, comedy writing, acting, directing? I know you're on the business side too. So.
Yeah, no, I don't see myself probably performing unless it'd be something like a podcast where I just sit around and talk with my buddies. But I do want to get into more directing. I want to get into more producing. I want to do a bit more digital stuff. I think I've got some good ideas about digital ways that comedy can be provided to us, because I think we learned a lot about this, about COVID, how, we're going to have to transform because I don't think this will be the last pandemic that we ever see. We may be more prepared for it next time, but the ideas of masks and things shutting down, I think there will be some of that in our future again. So just more creative ways to bring comedy to people at home and broaden that home experience, that home entertainment.
Indeed, because performing outside is, that's where my festival is happening, is like outside in the back of the coffee shop. But
Yeah.
it's just like, the laughs go up to the sky, and I prefer like, low ceilings and like where
Right.
everyone can just like, it just sounds awesome, like inside
Yeah,
a small
yeah.
room.
Yeah, you lose a bit of the acoustics and the intimacy when you're outside.
Absolutely.
So.
Indeed. I'm crossing my fingers for this one and see what happens. Because last year there was nobody in the audience. We just like live streamed the whole thing, and it's all on YouTube. So it was
Nice.
bizarre, but we made it work. So
Awesome.
Most definitely. And what is your favorite joke a comic has ever written?
A favorite joke that a comic has ever written? Oh man. I guess I've got to lean towards Ben Roy on this one, because it's kind of one of those ones where it's like, I'll play it for anyone that's in my car, or I'll play it for anyone that like doesn't know who Ben is. And it's his Phantom car bit. It was on his last Ooze Your Delusions album. And it was essentially, he keeps getting tickets by these, the photo vans on the side of the road. So he decides that he's gonna essentially luge by them and crank his seat all the way back, so that when the picture's taken, there's no one in the car or no one driving the car. And I don't want to ruin the bit, but I do heavily recommend Ben Roy's Phantom Car. And it's on Spotify or anywhere that you listen to comedy. And it just, the way he delivers that bit, and the way that he, you have to see it live to get the full experience, because he sits on a stool when he does it. And there's just the way his body language is I don't think I've ever seen anything that makes me cry that hard when I'm just laughing so hard that I can't get oxygen in fast enough. So
Awesome. Now I got two Ben Roy albums to catch up on. So I'll definitely do that today, because I don't have anything to do today. So it's going to be pretty awesome.
I hope you enjoy it as much as I do.
Indeed, most definitely. And we also have like an audience member in the crowd. So if you'd like to jump into the live chat section, you're more than welcome to, but be nice to us.
Oh.
So I always give them a fair warning to be nice to everyone. So.
Fair enough.
Awesome. And let's see here. What experience would you like your audience to take with them after a set is over?
I'm sorry?
What experience would you like your audience to take with them after a set is over?
Oh man, I as a producer, I do spend the most time looking around the room and seeing who's having the most fun, but then I'm also looking to see who's had the most to drink and being prepared for that. I think it's such a shitty place that we live. It's such a shitty world that we live in. If you can escape from it for 30 to 40 minutes, or an hour and a half, whatever the comedy show may be, I think that's, as a producer, that's what I strive for, is making sure that everyone just leaves on a different level than they came in the room as. So
most definitely, even the one that sits in the front that's not laughing or smiling.
Yeah,
there's always that one person.
That's just a challenge for you to get through to them.
Most definitely, indeed. And so for this next portion, Will, is which comics in Colorado or wherever you've met throughout the U.S. would you like to see on a future episode of the Stand Up Speakeasy?
Oh, wow. I don't know who's been on the show, so I would say I'd love to see like Shane Torres. I'd love to see Amy Miller. I don't know if you've talked to Amy Miller or not, but I think she'd be awesome on this. It's always such a. I'm trying to think of like at least more around the country than right in my backyard. Patrick Richardson. Let me see what's Patrick's. I always forget his last name because his Instagram handle is Patrick Piss. Yeah, Patrick Richardson. Patrick Richardson right now, I think, is probably one of the most outstanding comics that's coming up in the Denver scene. He does the Ratio comedy. I think it's every Thursday night. And next week is actually Ben Roy headlining it. But Patrick is one of those guys that I see he's on that path, and there's nothing going to stand in his way. So having him on your show, you can get him before he's too big, that kind of thing. Sam Tallent's got a new book out, Running the Light, which I think is an amazing book and speaks to everyone who's ever tried to do comedy or ever just gotten in a car and driven across the country as well. How many was that? 2, 3, 4. And then, wow. I can't think of any. I don't know anyone else. Yeah, I'm at a loss.
Oh, no worries. That's a lot, and it's all good because like they nominate their favorite comics too, and so it's like I'll reach out. I'll be sure to reach out to all those fine folks, and
Okay.
I can't wait to listen to like I know Sam has
have you done it with Movita on this?
I have. Yep,
Oh,
she's been on 2 episodes, like
awesome.
on the first season, so it's pretty awesome.
Good.
Yeah, and I got to listen to Sam Talent some on his audiobook because I hear like Kyle Kinane's voice on it and all that good stuff. So
yeah, it's so good. Oh, so yeah, they're knocking it out of the park. I think Denver's becoming a new little hotbed again of comedy, and I think there's a lot of LA comics that are moving back because after the pandemic, they just realized they didn't need to spend that much money on rent, and they could have just as much fun. Danny Maupin just moved back from Late Breakfast. Well, he's moving back. I think Stephen AJ is here. But yeah, it seems to be that there's more people coming back to the mountains after making a go of it in LA. And not that they didn't make it. It's an expensive place to live to try and chase your dreams when you can just get on a $40 flight and head out there for meetings whenever you need to. So
most definitely. And I remember seeing Late Breakfast at the Orlando Indie Comedy Festival when they had it like a couple years ago. Oh. And man, that show's amazing.
Oh, and you never know what the hell you're going to get. And Danny is a firecracker at best. I just don't hold him too close.
Indeed. And it's so true about LA too. Like you said, it's so expensive. Like I lived out there by myself for 4 years, and
oh wow,
rent was like $9.95 for me, but I had like 4 jobs to keep my boat afloat. So it's like, oh man. But I'm glad I moved back to Colorado. Now I'm in Florida now. I can't wait to move back to Colorado because I sure miss Pueblo so much. It's just an amazing town.
Yeah. Pueblo is such a different town probably than when you moved away too. There's been such an influx of people moving there that don't care for the speed of Denver and the traffic and everything else. So
indeed, that's what I love most about it, is like no traffic. It's fantastic. And speaking of Instagram handles that are fun, and what's the story behind Metal in Your Diet?
Well, it's the name of my management company, but it started in college. It was a radio show, and then it was also a way I had a 2-gauge Prince Albert, so it was a way to ask ladies if they would like metal in their diet. Which I shake my head at furiously and don't know why I was ever that dumb. So
I thought it was relating to music, so I was like, oh, I didn't expect it.
It's kind of transformed into that, and I just had it for so long that it's like, oh man, I should probably change it. But it's like now it's like the name of my management company, and it's now that the ship has sailed, I'm allowed to have a dumb idea when I was 20 years old. So.
Indeed. And if you love metal music, that's all that is. Like at my festival in Pueblo, and it's like we're known as a Steel City, and like I try to sprinkle as many genres as I could, but all we have is metal, and that's the majority of it. But it's totally worth seeing all those cool metal bands, local ones.
Awesome.
Heck yeah. So, Will, thank you so much for being my guest on the Stand Up Speakeasy. And it's so great to reunite with you after all these years. And looking forward to running into you. And hopefully in the near future, I'll have you and Ian and the Grolics at the festival as well in Pueblo, or if you're back in Florida, I'm starting my own Fest in Daytona Beach, to my home
Oh, are
base.
you?
So,
Awesome.
yep.
Okay.
So I'll have two
Yeah, I'm in Florida.
festivals.
I'll be there for Fest again this year, but I'm in. I work all over Florida too. So
Awesome, fantastic, and you're doing a great thing for everyone, from musicians to comedians, and for the environment with the recycling. And we need more people like you, Will. You're fantastic.
thank you.
You're
Thank you.
welcome. And for everyone at home, be safe, take care of each other, and we'll see you on the next episode of the Stand Up Speakeasy, whenever that is. So we'll see you all soon. Be well.
All right, bud.
Awesome.